Login accepted.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Tech Capital of the World, Kernersville, North Carolina. My name is Bobby Davis, CEO and founder of Foundry, and I'm joined by Kevin. We got some chill beats today, Kevin. I like it.
Yeah, we do.
I like it.
I think we've had this one on before. I don't think it's not a new one today, but we have if you listen in the background here when I play the music, we have a rotation of probably 20 songs. I try and have enough to go through kind of like an hour's worth of content. So depends which one I choose first to play. Today was, what was it? New Alchemist, Vancouver instrumental.
Okay.
If anybody wants music to use on anything on YouTube or whatever, check out Soundstripe. Not paid or anything. We don't have any kind of like a deal with them or anything. We just use their service and it's great. And you hook it up to YouTube and you don't get dinged on copyright or anything. It's all licensed music. A lot of times, even if you license music through YouTube, we've run into this problem before. You license it and then you get a ding anyway, and then they just check it. But your video gets taken down for a minute. It gets demonetized for a day or two, and then they'll remonetize it again. And it's kind of a pain to go through. But Soundstripe makes it easy. So yeah, if you're creative and you're creating video content, check out Soundstripe and use it on YouTube or whatever. It's good stuff.
Great.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Well, today I think we're going to help some people out today. I think the when you're trying to get a job, I think the most important part of it is like people think learning to code is the hard part, and it is, but then passing that tech interview, sometimes people struggle with that more than the learning part. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today to see kind of if we can help some people that are going through tech interviews maybe pass some.
Exactly. We have some cool tips, some cool kind of framework things that you've kind of developed over years of people coming back, right? So we push people out into interviews and they come back and say why they failed, and we figure out like why they fail, and then that's what this is based on. This is based on what we know actually works.
And then we figure out like, oh, so what happened? You succeeded. What happened? And then we know that these tips are work. This isn't something that we just made up. This just comes from people doing it, landing roles and those kind of things. So it does work. Yep. But first, we got some more important news about like Apple. I think something about Apple that's kind of cool. They released something yesterday or something.
They did some iPhone thing, which we're not like. I'm not I don't know. I may get one. I may not. I don't know yet. I don't know. It's not a big enough like feature upgrade for me really. It's like it's okay, but like it's like.
But it does have a new feature, Kevin, that you might like.
So we're talking about this because yes, it has this. What I'm going to call, it's a bug is a feature. So everybody knows that iPhones have these like little notch on them right at the top. So the new one, they have this thing they're calling the pill. So it's a cutout on the screen, right? And it contains sensors and cameras. And it's a hardware issue, right? They can't put the sensors and cameras behind the screen and have a screen overlaid, I guess, for whatever reason. Right, yeah. Although some people have done that, but apparently Apple can't do that for whatever reason. So it's a technical like issue, right? It's a hardware issue. They can't do it. So they introduced this crazy thing. Like they introduced this like it's literally a bug as a feature. They pitched it as a feature. They've taken this notch, and this little video down here shows it best. And they've taken this notch and actually made it a feature. They've put software around it that like hides it. I don't know, obfuscates it a little bit maybe. Like I don't know. It's such an interesting thing. Like they know it's a bug, but now they're pitching it as a feature, and they called it Dynamic Island. It's all software. It's all software, right? So it's the software that pops up as part of the iOS. I was like, wow, that's actually super cool. It shows you that you can take something that is definitely a bug. Don't let them tell you it's not a bug, because it's definitely a bug. If they could hide it under the screen, they would hide it under the screen. No question. Right. But they can't. So now it's a feature, the software built around it. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's kind of cool because like, the notch is black to begin with, and then they just made the context sensitive area here black.
Yep.
And so it masks it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty neat.
Is that enough to get an iPhone 14? I guess. Dynamic Islands, baby.
I mean, I don't know. Dynamic Island. Yep. Branding's good.
It's not a bad name. Branding's good.
I like the branding. I think the branding's good. It's very catchy. I think it'll, whether people will call it that or not, I don't know. It'll be like people will refer to it as like the pill software or pill notch, or I don't know, something. It'll be, the public will name it something versus what Apple wants you to name it, right? We'll actually give it a real name. Dynamic Island, maybe not. Yeah, but
well, it's better than what Microsoft would name something like this. So, like, what do we think Microsoft?
Firstly, I don't think Microsoft would even come up with this idea. Period. I don't think they would just. They just wouldn't even bother. There wouldn't be a software solution to this. They would. They just wouldn't bother. That's the first thing. Secondly, yeah, the name would be terrible.
Something like, what is it? Ever expanding pill.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be contextually aware, ever expanding pill architecture. That's what we'll go
architecture.
That's because 6. Yeah, 6. Yeah, we had 5 internal versions. So the 6th version, which is public release now, is that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Contextually, what would I say? Contextually aware, ever expanding pill architecture version 6.
Yeah.
That's the Microsoft version of this. Or if you're Apple, you just call it Dynamic Island. Much better name. But anyway, from a software perspective, I thought this was kind of interesting. Hardware seems like, if you're an iPhone user, like going from one to this one seems kind of underwhelming. New camera array, the usual stuff. New chip, it's
faster.
It's faster. It's better. Yeah. It's just the usual thing. There's nothing other than this like design feature. There's nothing majorly different about it. eSIMs too was another thing, which we're pushing towards in the US. No longer SIM cards. It's going to be all software based, which you can do right now. This is not a feature of this.
Yeah. I wrote a tweet the other day that was a guy was saying there's no way in the world I'm getting iPhone 14, and it said he's the ones that says me, we have dynamic islands, me, where's my money? So that's kind of
oh, that's funny.
So,
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I think it was probably the most interesting thing out of yesterday's announcements. There was
otherwise it's the same phone.
Otherwise, it feels like the same phone with just some minor upgrades. Yeah. Again, like phone array and chip and all that kind of stuff. But there's no visual upgrades to it other than that. There was also new watch and new AirPods as well. But again, new watch looks interesting, but they want $800 for it.
Right.
On the expensive side, but
Then we had one other piece of news before we get on to the tips too. What was that? We had something else we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, something I saw the other day, which we were talking about the other day, was how fast the .NET 7 is. So Stephen Toub, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That could be Tao. He's a software engineer on the Microsoft.NET team. He put out this. Basically, they do actually say it's a book-length article here. The thing's 75,000 words. It's long to read over.
Yeah.
But he talks about 1,000 performance increases between .NET 6 and .NET 7, 500 of which he talks about in this thing. That's, I mean, that's like, when we talk about like .NET 7 being a performance enhanced version, that's literally what this is. They're improving performance across the board in it from 6 to 7.
For everything.
For everything. 24 times speed on some things. They were talking about 6 times speed on some things, 20 times on some other things. Like, wow, okay, across the board. But the part that caught my eye too was down here in this section where they talk about ARM. So, and specifically they're talking about Apple Silicon and Windows on ARM, saying they are literally paying attention to this and it will be as fast or better than the x64 counterpart. Like, that's important.
Nice.
That's important.
The other thing too, and the other thing that people don't understand about C# in general and .NET runtimes is that I saw a tweet the other day. Someone hit up one of the major engineers and was like, "Hey, when is C# going to outperform Rust and C++?" Here I am waiting. I'm like, do y'all understand there's a difference between those two things? This is a managed language that's running at very competitive against Rust and C++. No, it's not faster, but like it's very competitive. And then on top of that, all the things you can build with it, it just makes it kind of crazy, like how fast it really is. But when you compare it to its peers, Node, Java, it kills those.
Yeah, that article does say that too, by the way, at the very end.
Yeah, it's way faster than all of those things. So like so why would you out there learning to code, why does this matter to you? Because performance matters, because now everything that has been pushed onto the cloud. And so like, as you take up CPU cycles on the cloud, that costs you money. Well, if you can do that faster, and performance can actually lower your bill at Azure AWS. And so people are seeing like memory drops, performance increases lots of things happening by just converting over to .NET 6, and now .NET 7 is going to do the exact same thing. It's going to be faster than even the long-term version of .NET 6, so it's kind of cool.
Yep. So .NET 7 isn't a long-term support version. It is an incremental version, whatever they're calling it, a feature upgrade or something, whatever they're calling it. But it's one of these ones that doesn't have long-term support. .NET 8 will be the next long-term support, but of course that will encompass all of these things from .NET 7. So
sure.
You know, if you want to be cutting edge .NET 7 and you want to talk about speed, then I believe they're talking about the update from .NET 6 to .NET 7 is going to be easy. It's going to be an easy thing to do. It's not a massive amount of like rewriting your code base or anything crazy like that. It's just kind of behind the scenes performance enhancement stuff that'll be worth the upgrade.
Right. And so some of the web stuff will be identical to what .NET 6 was. Now, of course, Maui's coming out, so Maui is a big part of .NET 7
thing. Yeah.
There's a lot of Blazor improvements that are in .NET 7. But when you look at the things that we're building in the cohorts and the classes here and online, you know, I don't think there's a whole lot of changes between .NET 6 MVC and .NET 7 MVC.
Yeah.
I
think we were talking about this the other day with somebody. Somebody asked the question, like, when are we going to see .NET 7 content in the course? And it's like, you're not going to see, we probably won't do MVC .NET 7 content.
No,
we'll do .NET 7 content more. We'll do
Yeah.
.NET 7 content more around the new features, probably Maui and Blazor stuff. If we do .NET 7 stuff, not a retake of it again, because it's almost the same.
Yeah, it's almost identical. It's just faster.
Which is great. That's what we want, right? What we want. Okay,
we may make some videos on like convert and say, hey, here's what you got to do to target your project from 6 to 7. Stuff
I think that would be good.
Just work.
I think that would be good.
Check the chat box and save it, recompile.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we were talking about doing that between 5 and 6 as well, because technically there's not that many differences there either. There's a couple of things that you have to change. Yeah. It's not just a matter of like retargeting it just works.
Right.
There are a few things you have to change, but essentially it's not that much. We've had people go through our .NET 5 course and do it in .NET 6 without our assistance at all.
Right.
And build the bug tracker in .NET 6.
I mean, the big thing was you had program CS and startup CS. Those two things kind of merged together. But you actually in .NET 6 can run it with the old file structure as well. So they were just, just some, I talk about improvement of life or life improvement type enhancements. It doesn't really.
Yeah, it doesn't, you don't have to rewrite your entire application to change the framework it targets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. All right, let's get to our tips here. Let's see if we can help some people get
a couple things first. How soon to .NET 23 content?
Comes out every year. Do the math.
Hey, if we're here still doing .NET 23, then we've done something wrong.
We've done something wrong.
Or we've done something right. I don't know. I don't know how to look at that. I don't know how to look at that. That's funny. Let's just do one more thing too. Let's answer Lala's question real quick. So based off of last week's LinkedIn discussion, should you wait to have a LinkedIn until you're officially a developer, portfolio, bootcamp grad, applying for positions, etc.? So I guess the question is, when do you start LinkedIn?
I think once you have a portfolio, you can start LinkedIn. You don't want to do the stuff that we're talking about until you have something to show. I mean, so like,
I think you can start a profile and start building our network. Like,
you
can. You can do that whenever. Yeah. I definitely.
Right. But you're going to have a portfolio, and that's going to be on your feature section. You can rep your projects and your experience as a bootcamp grad, and then you can start applying for positions once you have a portfolio of projects. So.
Yeah, but I think the sooner you start building out your network, the better. Just jump on there. It
takes a minute.
Make up a basic profile. It does take a minute. You want to get to that 500 mark, really. And you can't just, LinkedIn does stop you from spamming, right? So you can't just jump on there and make 500 connections in a day. They do have limits to that. You have to make they want you to make genuine connections with people. So they do limit the amount. I don't know what the amount is per day, but it is capped per day. So you want to start building that early and start with just 10, 20 people a day and start finding people that could possibly hire you or you want to connect with or you could learn from and connect with them. And just start doing that. Yeah, start early. And Lala, thank you for being a channel member too, by the way. I see a little rubber.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, awesome.
I like it. Okay, let's get started on our topic for today then. So,
all right.
What did I title the video today? I don't remember what I titled it. I titled it
Tech Interview Tips.
Where am I? Tech Interview Tips. That's what I titled. I can't remember if I put one of those clickbaity titles in or not. But yes, Tech Interview Tips. So, we want to talk about a few things around the technical interview because, as you mentioned earlier, it's a difficult thing.
It's a difficult thing. It may be the hardest thing in getting a dev job is passing a technical interview. And I think it's because of the way interviews take place, and then the way people are taught to train for them. Yeah. So here's what a tech interview, when you go to the technical part of it. Now, you may go to HR and it's totally different. They're asking you softball questions. But like in the technical part where you're talking to a dev manager, a hiring manager, someone who's highly technical, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And I call these code trivia questions. And so typically too, if you're interviewing for a .NET Stack job, those questions are going to center around the .NET Stack. If you're in for a Node.js React job, then your questions are going to center around the Node and React positions. And so this is important. Even when we go through the learning, is we need to align our stack with the job we're interviewing for, especially early on. I'm still say this, when people say, learn whatever you want, build it with whatever you want, it's the worst advice in this whole industry. It's terrible advice.
Yeah.
I'll go to my day saying that, and people think, it doesn't matter what you build it with. While technically true, functionally, when you're trying to interview for your first software job, what you have built it with is the types of jobs you should interview for. And really, the people giving that advice out, saying, hey, build it with whatever you want, doesn't matter what stack you use, it doesn't matter, already have a job.
Yep.
And they can translate,
like you said, from a pure academic standpoint, it doesn't matter. You can learn to code and build it in anything you like, but like you said, the practical part, that's where it has to has to match. It has to hit the road at that point. It has
to match up. So number one, the first thing I need to do is, first off, we're going to be interviewing for web dev jobs. So there is data science, which is growing, and it's a little bit, but it's smaller than the total jobs available for web dev. So if you just want to break in, you just want a new job, you just want a new career, you want to code, you want to make more money, then web dev is the easiest way to break in. It's still today the easiest way to break in. Are there other things out there? Data science, yes. Desktop development, game development, yes. They're just smaller, and so therefore your opportunities are less, which means it makes it harder to do. But all of these tech things that we're going to talk about apply to all of these. It doesn't really matter what we're interviewing for. Just know that if you're not aligning your stack with your job search, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be a hard slog. I think that's where you see people saying, I applied for 600 jobs. Yeah. Well, they're not really thinking about, like, how do my skills align with the job? So like and you're just wasting, I think you can waste your time. Because imagine if you learned React, let's say you learned React and you went and applied for a .NET job. Okay, and you didn't care about the stack, and it doesn't matter.
You think they're going to ask you React questions at the interview?
They're not. And there's going to be 8 other .NET people apply for that job. Who are they going to pick out of that list, especially for junior roles? They're going to pick the one whose stack aligns mostly with what we do. And so we try to, with Coder Foundry, we're trying to push out into .NET jobs. Now, has someone graduated from Coder Foundry and took a PHP role? Absolutely, it's happened. Yes. Have they taken other roles? Yes, it has happened. So it's not that. It just makes it a whole lot easier if you can, if your stack can align with what you're interviewing for. So just think about that first. Yep. I'm going to talk about this in terms of C#. But if you're learning React, I'm not saying that you need to switch what you're doing. I'm saying that you need to apply the same lessons to React as you're doing for C#, or if you're doing Python or PHP. I'm just talking about in terms of one particular stack I think we can align our roles with here at Coder Foundry, but you can do this with other stacks as well. So hopefully that makes sense. So the first one is, I think, you got to learn to code first, and you got to have a portfolio project. I think this is no longer a suggestion at this point. I think this is a requirement for juniors to break in.
Because here's the thing too, though. Like, obviously, knowing how to code is an obvious one. Yeah, like, you have to know how to go to get the job. You can't fake it, because you're gonna fake it at the first question. You're gonna fall down at a hurdle and be like, that didn't work out. So you definitely can't fake it. You definitely have to know how to code in the stack you're interviewing for. The portfolio thing has always been kind of like, you really need that. You hear the person that says, well, I didn't have a portfolio and I got a job. That's what you hear all the time. Right. That's what you hear from people who push back against this.
Yes.
So what do you think about that?
It's because no one had them. Now they do.
Right.
So so now people are showing these things. And here's what I also want to tell you is, resist the urge to listen to the people that say, I don't want to put that much effort into building projects for a job that I'm not going to get anyway.
I don't want to work for free. It's what they say.
Yeah, and then they say, I don't want to work for free. And I'm like, well, no, you're working for you. And so I want you to understand that when you build projects, even if it's a coding challenge, a technical challenge for a job, you're increasing your skill set while you're doing it. And this is for you. This is part of the learning aspect of you of building projects. So I'd say if you get a take-home coding challenge and ask you to write chess, put it on your portfolio. There's no like NDA saying you can't share that coding challenge with the world, like just put it out there. Maybe someone else will ask you to build chess or a recipe site, or those are the ones that we've seen recently, those kind of things. So I would say put them out there, build them, put them out there, put them on your portfolio, show people that you can build things. So if you have projects, not only is it proof of work, what I'm going to tell you is it's going to improve your ability to interview. And that's what we're talking about. We're taking these artifacts that we've built, that we spent time building, and we're going to use them to our advantage during the interview. And so the first thing that you should do, here's your number one, and I call this the opening. When you walk into an interview, especially in the technical interview, you need to practice your opening statement, which is, hey, thank you for taking time to interview me. I was wondering, before we get to questions, I know you got a lot of questions you want to ask me. Can you take a look at my portfolio of projects? Because I think that best represents what I bring to the table to this role. They're going to say yes or no.
Yep.
They might say, maybe we'll look at it later, or no, we don't see your portfolio. Yep. And so if they don't want to look at it, that's fine. I want you to keep it open so that you can show it later.
Yeah, this actually brings up another prerequisite point too, by the way, because it depends on, like, bring a laptop. If you're going for a physical interview, bring a laptop and make sure that it's ready to roll. What you don't want to do is show up with a laptop that's like powered down. It's like, have it, you literally want to open it up and your portfolio just bling onto the screen. If you're doing a remote interview, chances are any of these platforms that do a remote interview, Zoom, Teams, Skype, whatever, they all have screen sharing, right? Just be ready to share your screen and 100% know how it works. Don't let the first time you share your screen in that thing be the first time you've ever used it. Make sure that you know Skype. Make sure that you know Teams. Make sure that you know Zoom. They're free to get on, right?
And WebEx.
And WebEx. You know, when you get the link for the interview, you're going to know what it is, right? You're going to know. So make sure that you go practice. Because again, the worst thing you can do as a technical interview is show up and not be technical.
Right. You screw the tech up. Like it's no longer an excuse to say, Zoom is new. So I can tell you this by personal experience. Like 2 weeks ago for me, Kevin, I had a business meeting and it was on WebEx. Okay. And my setup, I have multiple cameras in my setup. And so I have one forward facing camera and then I have my MacBook that's off to the side and it shoots the side view, so I'm getting on WebEx and I didn't know this. WebEx only detects the primary camera. It doesn't look at secondaries.
Oh,
so I'm trying I get on there and the camera's shooting sideways all the way through my office. And so, real quickly I had to move the MacBook around and then lean up and talk to it. It's like it was just really uncomfortable because I didn't test it first. I should have tested it first. I'm used to how Zoom and Teams work. And so and also too, the other thing that's frustrating is, can you hear me? Your audio's not working, those kind of things. You got to know your tech down because you got to get sound out and you got to get video out and you got to get your screen share out.
Yeah, you want that to feel like it's seamless, like you just do it all the time, like it's nothing. Because again, the worst thing that can happen you're interviewing for a technical job is if you don't appear to be technical, even on the hardware side of things. I know you're not applying for an IT-based job, but it just looks bad. If you can't handle that stuff, how are you going to handle my code base? If you can't handle setting up your webcam and mic correctly, it's a bad look.
Yeah. So the step one is to basically ask them to demo. Now, if you get a demo right off the bat, you're winning right off the bat because you're showing them things that you've built. This is what I call proof of work. The proof of work that you have allows you to demonstrate skill in a way. Now, the cool thing about demoing software versus answering technical trivia questions is now you've turned a closed book test where they just pepper you with questions into an open book test where they're now looking at something and suddenly their questions revolve around the piece of software that you built. So now they can ask you detailed questions about what you can do and you can look at the code together. It's very powerful to do this. In fact, when we see Coder Foundry grads leave here and they don't listen to this advice and we try to drill it in their head. I just had someone come back last week. He said, I got a job and talking to his cohort mates. what did you do? He says, I finally just listened to what Bobby said. I just walked in there, asked them the demo and stuff, and they looked at it, and I showed them my bug tracker, and I got a job.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, that's what happens, you know? And so,
because it seems unusual, doesn't it? It seems like not what you used to. You used to showing up to an interview and just answering questions. It's all like, it's a one-way kind of conversation.
Like
yeah.
Yes.
You're there to be grilled.
Yes.
But you can turn that on its head. You can what your phrase is taking control of the interview. Right? That's what you
take control of the interview.
Goal.
Dictate what they're going to ask you.
Yep.
Dictate the questions that you're going to get. And it's just natural human nature. You show a developer some lines of code, a project or whatever, they're going to go off their script here and they're eventually going to go, oh, how did you do that? How did you do that?
Yep.
How does that work?
It's funny because we've talked about this where this has happened to you, right? Where somebody has somebody's done it to you and it's actually taken you a second to realize like, oh, I see what you did. You used my own technique on me, like, and it's
because it's the table on me,
it's
man.
almost subliminal. Like you're in like interviewer developer mode, and you're like, oh, okay, now I see what you did there. But it took you minutes to like recognize, like, oh, okay, I'm asking you questions about your work now, like.
Right, and that makes it easy. I mean, like it makes it a lot easier to answer technical questions because they're asking you about something that you know, so you have a frame of reference to go by. The hard questions to answer are technical interview questions that are just what I call academic co-trivia, which is like topics and definitions and things like this. What is MVC? We have people not passing. What is MVC? Coming out of the cohort. Why? And I think here's what I think happens. It doesn't mean you don't know what the term is, but there is sometimes it's really hard to connect that question to an answer in real time, especially on your
in a pressure situation.
It's really
because it is a pressure situation.
Like I don't know, like Mary Victor Charlie. Is that what it stands for? And you give a crazy answer. You don't, and it's not that you don't know. So, but here's the thing that I'm going to give you a very cool memory trigger that works for me. So I'm going to give you a keyword. And so I think keywords, when you memorize keywords and you associate keywords with topics, it's a very good memory technique to be able to like take two things that cause you to remember a large set of things. Instead of trying to remember the large set, you can use keywords to do that. Just kind of the way indexing works and why we search for programming and stuff like that inside of a search for Google or whatever. But the keyword is for example. So if someone asks you, say, hey, what is MVC? And you go, well, the academic answer is it's a model view controller, addresses separation concerns, allows us to build websites in a standardized way. For example.
That's where most people end.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's where most people end. And then they're like, next question.
They stop right there. Next question. Next. And so like you're at the podium, like you're being interviewed by the press or whatever. Next question. But you're going to say, for example, and then proceed to talk about something concrete. The first answer was abstract academic. For example, bridges us into the concrete thing, which is your code base, your projects. And you say, for example, I wrote a bug tracker in NBC and on the default index page view, and then talk about the controller and how you used any framework to bring back the database and how you return that model to the view and how it gets displayed on the page. The other thing that we can do here during the interview is take up time. So you got 45 minutes.
Right.
You got an hour, maybe, something like that, so like if you can avoid answering 20, you answer 5 questions instead of 20, that's probably to your benefit as a junior.
Yeah, because don't forget, they're only going to remember the ones you don't answer. You know how this is.
Right.
You know how this is. 20 questions in and you don't answer the 20th one, they're going to be like, well, he didn't know what that was. Like, that's all they're going to remember.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you got
and I've seen it happen, man. I've seen it happen. I've watched interviews and they'll come back and, he didn't know that.
Yeah.
He got the other 8 right. Well, he missed one. So they're looking for you to bat 1,000 on this, 100, get 100% of them right, not that you got 9 out of 10 right. And especially if that person that's interviewing thinks that question everyone should know.
Yeah.
Which is subjective.
Definitely.
It's their knowledge. It's the thing that they've memorized. And so therefore, that's the most important thing. You got to understand this is also human nature when you're interviewing is that people, that's how they think. Everyone knows that. Really? Is that what everyone knows? I mean, is that something you went out and searched or is that something and therefore you think everyone else should know it? And I think that's more the trend. So what you want to do is get them off that list of paper. So here's what most dev people do is they'll Google the top 30 C# interview questions, and they're bringing that to the interviewer as a hiring manager.
Yep.
Guess what you can do? You can also Google that same list
Yep.
and know that list cold. And so, in fact, we built a course around this. Not that you have to buy our course, but we have a course called The Interview. So if you're interviewing .NET, I think this is one of the best courses that you can take. It's 20 questions, the top 20 questions that we did on video.
It's actually over 100 total.
Over 100 in text, but like you can see how we answer it on video. And then we've got them broken down by questions and categories and things like
after
that.
The top 20. Yep.
But even if you're interviewing for React, you could probably look at this and go, oh, okay, I can see what you're doing there. And what you can do is you can build your own the interview course here by just researching what are the top 20 React questions. Know the answer, know where you're going to go, and show them a React project. And this is why aligning your stack to the interview matters, because if they're asking you what MVC is and you've been doing React Node.js, you don't know. You haven't been using that. You could maybe answer it academically, but you have no proof of work. So now we have proof of work. That's why we align our stack with where we're interviewing. So this works really well for a lot of students, and it works fantastic in interviews regardless of what the stack is. This isn't just a C# thing. So, for example, you go from an abstract answer and then you go straight into the concrete, which is your projects, and you're showing them code. Especially if you're demoing this code, Kevin, you're walking through the code base. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to know the answer. You can very easily just read the code along with the rest of the people and talk about it.
And in our course here too, we actually give every one of these ones that has a video against it actually has a concrete example. So it's basically Antonio in these videos. If I just click on one, and he answers the question. So he answers the question kind of academically on camera, and then he also shows you code base. So an example with code and explains, like in this case, what Razor syntax is. He explains it using a code base. And this time, I think he's using the bug tracker in most of these.
Most of them.
As a reference point. So you should have a project that uses that technology and you know exactly where it is, and here you go. So he shows, an example in his MVC project. Oh, this one was the blog. So it says, in my blog, I did this. So it shows you exactly like where it was used in the project. So each one of these in the course has this. So yeah, it just gives you it's like a sample, right? You can see like what you should do, and he answers the question like as he's been asked it in an interview, and then he just answers the question. It's kind of cool. It's neat. You don't, like I say, you don't. If you want the C# stuff, this is obviously for you. You can use a lot of this for other languages too. Like Bobby said, you don't need to buy this. You can Google the top 20 if you want to, just that we put it together because it helps our students, and then we...
Yeah. But if you're on our platform anyway, this is included in your monthly subscription anyway, so it's already there. So it may be something that you haven't really looked into yet. So I think that you can turn them into concrete examples is the thing. For example, is your memory trigger to do your study. Now let's talk about like data structures and algorithm questions. So a lot of people, they talk to Karen, why aren't you teaching those kind of questions? Well, there's a lot of them out there. There's LeetCode and those kind of things. And unfortunately, with the data structure and algorithm type questions, they don't lend themselves to examples that much.
Right.
They
become purely academic, don't they?
Purely academic. Really, and sometimes you can do that. So what I would say is go to LeetCode and maybe look at, I would start with, there's a billion of them. I would start with the ones that you get asked most commonly are things in and around arrays and looping. So like if you have like finding the longest string in an array, find the shortest string in an array, maybe looking up things, finding a certain character in an array or a certain array of characters. Maybe it could be the anagram or these two words, anagram. It all involves around looping over elements in an array, and start answering a lot of those. Now, it just so happens that we also built another course that just does that too. We had 11 of them called the JavaScript Coding Challenges that answer those as well. So this one actually is free. I mean, so there's something you can go look at for free.
Yeah, you can go get a free account.
That's sitting here. Yeah. You get a free account and look at that. And so we've taken some very common ones. It's not all of them, but like we show you like how to code those up and turn them into something there. So I've got about 11 of those that are kind of common. Balanced brackets being one that's been asked a lot. We've seen a lot of that lately, sorting.
Yep. So yeah,
anagram check.
if you do this course, just know that challenge number 2 is a little bit harder than most of them. We pushed it to the top and we explain why, because it's like one we've seen a lot recently. So they don't get progressively more difficult as such. They can't think of them as being random, just based on what we see more used more, but kind of towards the top. So
right. So anyway, so you're going to need to do some DSA search. Now, here's the problem I have with people giving out advice, that you need to understand data structure and algorithms, because typically that's what they're asking during the interview process. So, but it's not all the interviews ask these questions. In fact, more and more, they're asking more questions about things that you've built, because portfolios are coming rolling in. But if they're asking you how to sort a binary tree or whatever it is, binary tree, traverse a binary tree, whatever they're asking you about, that's probably not really indicative of what they do on the day-to-day basis at the company. And so I think interviewers are figuring out, like, that's not really what we do. Does that really matter? Now, the people from other parts of the world and also with computer science degrees will tell you that it absolutely matters and you need to have it. So I say, bring a portfolio of projects, do the top 30 questions in your stack first, because that's more than likely what you'll be asked. Then after you've done that, then look at the most common ones on LeetCode, the most common ones that you could possibly get asked. And if you need an example, we've done 11 of them, and you may hit one that's not asked. All right, so let's talk through that. So let's go through the interview. And let's say you go through your first technical interview and you don't demo. You allow them to give you code trivia questions, and you're just asked. And you get 20 questions during the interview. Yep. And they tell you to pound sand, go hit the street, you suck, and all this kind of stuff. You fail miserably. So what we see is people quit at this point.
Yeah. Sometimes after one interview, literally after one interview, we see somebody quit.
And then they'll say various things like, well, my boot camp didn't prep me, my computer science didn't prep me, I didn't, obviously I don't know enough, or I'm stupid, or whatever.
Yeah, they don't hire juniors is the thing.
Yeah, they don't hire juniors. Like, yeah, they're obviously looking for someone with 10 years experience. Only people with 10 years experience can answer these questions. So you see all of that kind of content out there. And so while some of that could be true, maybe your boot camp did suck. Let's say it did. Let's say you went to a bad boot camp and it sucked. What do? Well, here's what I got. I got this little catalog here. I got these. We give these out sometimes. They're little books. You can get these anywhere, at any Staples, Office Depot. You can get anything like this. It's just a notebook. And what I want you to do is, during your interview process, open this notebook and write down every question that you get. Just jot it down. Okay?
Yep.
Then what you want to do, if you struggle during that interview, just star it. Just put a little star in it and say, man, I blew this question. You can put a little star beside it, a check mark or whatever. And then you're going to go review those questions post-interview. So now we're studying actual interview questions that we get. I promise you this, there is a limited, finite set of questions that you're going to be asked. They do rotate. There is groupthink among interviews, and you'll see that they'll come through in patterns and waves. And so eventually, the more interview questions that you see and answer, the better off you are. Even if your boot camp supposedly didn't prep you, there is two different things here: learning to code and learning to interview. Two different things. like we try to teach both, but obviously we're gonna lend more time learning how to code than we are teaching you how to interview. That's why we have additional resources on our self-paced course for all students. Because it is important, it is hard, and it may be harder than actually learning to code, because you've got to real quickly take a question and turn that into some kind of answer that you have to do it real quick under pressure, and it's kind of hard. So write down all these questions. Let's say that you went to an interview and you answered one question particularly badly, and you're studying, you're like, wow, that was terrible. What was I thinking? What was I doing? Here's what I would do. If you have a blog, which you should, write up an answer to this question on the blog. In fact, if you wrote down, you could make blog articles for every one of these interview questions that you get asked.
It's free content.
Free content ideas. So you're going to push that out there. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to push that question and answer back to the employer that just interviewed you, even if you got turned down, and say, hey, On further review, I was thinking about that question you asked me yesterday, and I didn't answer it correctly. You know, after thinking about it, I just wanted to tell you this is how I would answer that if you asked me that again, you know, and going for the future. Thank you for interviewing me. Hope that we can work together in the future. Boom. Now, don't send them all 20, send them one.
Right.
You know, just one question and answer. If you missed all 20, that's okay, but you could send them one of them that you think was particularly interesting that you found out the answer to.
You know why I think that works too? I think that works also because the job of being a developer is about solving problems. It's not about not about memorizing something. And if you fail in an interview, you just failed at the memorization part of it. If you go back 24 hours later and show that you not only have researched and found the answer, but now you've presented it to them, that shows that you've now learned the thing. That's a much better skill as a developer. That's literally the skill they're looking for. They're really not looking for memorization, but a lot of times they don't have a better way to interview you. So they just go with asking these questions.
Yeah, and the question is, does this work? And I've seen it work and not work. So, but you know, I don't know what the percentage of the success rate is, but it's better than zero, which zero you just got turned down. So like, you know, might as well just give it a shot, you know, but it also helps you solidify that answer in your mind. So the next time you're asked, you won't be, you'll better able to remember kind of what they asked you. So I think it's way better, and all the way around, it's going to help you out. Write down every question you're asked in a book, you know, review those post-interview, send them to the interviewer, the one that you missed, put them on a blog somewhere. You know, that could be a LinkedIn post, it could be Medium, it could be DevTO, it could be your own personal blog that you wrote.
Here's the other thing we noticed recently about this kind of set of like top 20 questions too. We had somebody interview for a senior role recently, right?
Yes.
Questions that senior got asked, guess where those questions came from? Also the top 20 C# list.
Yes, it's the same list, whether you're going to junior or senior. And that's what people don't understand. No one hires juniors. It's because the same questions get asked. They're not going to interview any different, regardless of the role that you entered in. You know, they're going to say, well, we know you're kind of limited in your skill set, so we're going to like just ask you these 5 things. Yeah. And some companies may try to do that, but you're still going to get what is MVC or what is React or what is Angular or what is JavaScript. You're still going to get those same question, the opening softball question. The problem is, can you take that question and turn it into a demo? If you can, you'll win. If you can answer it academically, succinctly, and you're really good at that, you'll get to the next question. Notice you don't necessarily win. You just get to the next question. You know, so like they're just going to ask you
until you fail
of these things until you miss. You know, and then you don't get hired. You know, so like interview, study these top 20, 30 questions, and if you know them, you're going to get a role. It's that easy. Now, is the work hard? Yes, but the solution to the problem is easily identifiable, and it's something that you can do. Now, if you quit after your first interview because you feel embarrassed or you feel stupid or you feel like you can't do it, I can't help you there. What I'm saying is write down every question, keep interviewing until you get a job. It takes a minute to get good at it.
Yep. It's a learning opportunity, not a failure. Yep. That's the way you got to look at it. Everyone is a learning opportunity. Take every interview sheerly just for the learning opportunity. Like that's you know,
don't take it personal. You know, like just. Yeah. You know, and then sometimes, you know, you're not going to get hired at that company. So what? There's another company that'll come along. Yeah, you'll do it.
Definitely. We'll do some questions. I just want to thank Sean in chat. Sean from class right now is in the chat. Just somebody as Lala had asked about, like, what's a day in the life look like of a Code Foundry student. He's been chatting in there. So thanks for giving your perspective, Sean. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Sean's an excellent student, man. He's killing it. He's definitely killing it.
Okay, let's do some questions. Let's see if we can help Frank out here. Frank says, have a brief phone interview in a couple of hours. What are the different stages of interviews typically?
If it's a tech interview, they're gonna just ask you some technical questions.
I guess if it's a brief one, it probably isn't them. I'm guessing this might be a first/HR one, maybe.
If it's kind of typical, then they're gonna ask you about like what do you want to do? What's your perfect job look like?
They're not going to ask you technical stuff, I guess, is the generally.
Right.
Because they don't understand.
So if they're asking you that, read the job description, and all your answers should center in and around that job description. What's the perfect job for you looking like?
Yeah.
And let's say you're interviewing for a maintenance C# role. Like, man, I really like maintenance. You know?
Exactly.
So like
maintenance is my passion.
You know, maintenance is my passion. C# is my passion. That's what I want to do. And the other thing is come up with 3 things, 3 reasons why you're fit for the job description. And these can be generic. They don't have to be that necessarily all technical. What I think is empathy, commitment to craft, and being on time, and those kind of things. So being on time and being a hard worker is like, I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to put in my effort, and I'm going to make sure that everything happens. Empathy is, the question is, I really understand that the business has needs, and the technology people are hired there to fix those problems or help them overcome those needs so that we can push our product in the marketplace. And the third one is just commitment to craft. I like to learn, and I'm going to keep learning every day so that I'm the best possible developer I can be for this role. Boom. 3 reasons why you should hire me. It has nothing to do with whether you know HTML or not, or how to make a CSS transition.
Yep. And I wouldn't say, like, when you say like the different stages of interviews, typically there is no typical. We see students go through
they're just going to run down a list of questions I have.
I'm talking about like even the series of interviews, right? You could show up, like, it could be one interview. It could literally be one interview, right? It could be both like HR and technical all in one, and bam, you get an offer. Or you don't, right? You get a reject. It could be 2 different kind of HR style interviews, one with the manager that's non-technical, then you maybe get a technical one. We've seen some that have literally 5 and 6 interview stages. So there is no typical. It's typical for the company, but not for being a developer.
Yeah, but you're right there. Going by what he wrote down, if it's a brief phone interview, typically it's with HR. They want to see, are you interested? Are you in the location? Salary demands, those kind of things. What I would say is this. Here's the other thing about negotiation. So first off, and first is like, don't try to get the max possible salary. Another, try to guess what the max possible salary is. Figure out what you need to live and work on, and what you're willing to work for, and go for that. If you have no idea what you're worth in the marketplace, ask someone, ask a recruiter, ask someone that can tell you, like, this is the type of salaries we're seeing in North Carolina, for example. So right now, a junior dev can make anywhere between 40 and 65 and 70 is kind of high for a junior coming out in North Carolina and in and around the Southeast. Now, don't believe those people on Twitter say, I'm only asking for $250K. That's what I should get. It's not true. I
saw one tweet the other day. There was somebody who's changing careers, and they were making 165 doing sales or something. Like, I don't want to take a pay cut, but I want to be a developer. Like, sorry, dude, you're taking a pay cut. You have no choice. You're changing careers. It's like starting over.
Why would you take a pay cut? Like, I don't know why. If you're making that kind of coin, why you'd want to leave? But like, so like, I think, but coding puts you on a path, a 5-year path to get back to that 160, 165, those kind of salaries. It's just not going to happen out of the gate. Now, a lot of people think that when we say you can make $100K a year, we're saying exiting a boot camp, one day after the boot camp, I'm going to make $100,000. That is not typical. Has it happened here at Code Foundry? Yes. We're also in a different market. If we're in California, maybe that's a little different. But, California price of living and everything is totally different as well. New York's a different market. Depending on the market you're in, dictates the salary that you're in. So it just depends on what city and state you're working in and where that goes. But I would say it's safely to assume anywhere that's not California, New York, and Austin, Texas, 65 is pretty good starting point for a junior dev right now. Now, there's some states like West Virginia where it's lower, unfortunately, but like, cost of living may be lower too. So like, but here's what I will say. If you do get an offer, make sure that that you can get the offer that you're willing to work for. Take that first offer and get experience. It's more important than getting the max offer. So the other thing, the final advice I want to get, and we can ask some more questions here, people can ask me questions, is when someone says, hey, that's all the questions I have, what questions do you have for me? That is the number one, where you can just destroy an interview at that point. Let's say that
you could have aced it to this point, and you can totally tank yourself in one comment at this point.
In one comment, like we've had groups where companies have came into Code Foundry cohorts and just said, hey, we're interested in hiring a bunch of you. We just want to tell you about the company. And then the questions come back from some of the people have killed it for the entire cohort.
Yeah. So what do those questions sound like? What kind of questions are the bad ones? So it's more about what shouldn't you ask here.
Yeah. Right? Yes. What shouldn't you ask? And I'm going to tell you what you should ask. Okay. So what you should ask is the most important thing is ask them what they're working on. So they're, hey, what questions do you have for me? You say, hey, I've talked a lot about my projects. Tell me about a project that you're working on right now, like the types of things that I could be working on if I was employed here. Get them talking about work. Okay. This is a very standard thing. Ask them about them, not necessarily the demands that you have. So I think it's the wrong time to ask. Like I've seen people say, you need to question them about the executive's pay rate.
Yeah, that's one.
Like, what does it matter what the president makes?
If you're willing to take I'm onboarded, can I take a vacation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when's I have a vacation plan for next Monday. I'm going to be gone for a month. So is that going to be a problem? So when you're starting a new job, those things are kind of pushed to the side. So take your vacation and then interview is what I would say. But like, don't bring that burden in. You're just not going to get an offer. The second thing is anything negative about your views on corporate America, yeah. And these, it's prevalent in tech Twitter. And then they'll say, you'll see this, trust me when I say this, you need to interview the company just as hard as they're interviewing you because they need you more than you think. And you're like, well, kind of, I mean, like 50 people interviewed for the position. So,
and that advice is coming from somebody with 10 years experience already, which maybe that works for them. Like that can work for them. They are in demand.
Right. Well, you have options, you have options. So like, when you have options, you can do things. When you don't have options, which is I'm trying to break in and I need a job, ask them about work. Don't ask them about the executive bonus schedule or
right.
all these kind of crazy questions, like the other one that I think is cringy is why is this job open? Right. Why is it open? Like we fired the last guy.
What happened to the last guy? Yeah, exactly.
Or we created a job. Does it really freaking matter why it's open? I'm going to pay you to do it. So like, why does that matter? I mean, like, why does it matter to you? So let's say that the last guy got fired. What do you assume from that? I'm going to get fired too. I'm not going to tell you that. Maybe
they're certainly not going to tell you why, are they?
Work. Yeah,
they're not going to tell you why.
Money. We don't know why he got fired.
They're not going to be like They're not going to be like, oh, he was let go. They're going to be like, why? They're going to go, well, he was embezzling money from the company. That conversation's never going to happen. Exactly. They're never going to tell you that. So what's the point?
So they're never going to get an answer that basically tells you anything that you can garner about it. So like, just if you're willing to work there, go work there. And then if it does turn out where, the boss is a serial killer, and it'd been nice to know if you're an axe welder, before I got hired here, but like, then you just quit and leave and move to the next role. But what you got was experience. And that is more important than the absolute match for this thing. So that's my advice is ask them about what they're working on. And then details about the company or the job or why it's open are irrelevant. If you do a great job at a company, you're going to have opportunities for promotion. These things like, what are my opportunities for promotion? What's my bonus plan? What's, when can I expect my next review? And the guy's like, hey, slow your roll here. Like, why don't we just get you hired? And like, we'll figure all that stuff out as you go, as you become better. And if it doesn't work out for you, you leave and move on and do something different,
Yep.
So
definitely.
All right, let's answer some questions, see if we can help some people here.
Let's go to Lala's question here. So do those doing the hiring usually not look at portfolios ahead of time?
I hope they have.
But it depends.
But you don't know if they have or not.
Not always. Yeah, not always.
Yeah.
The HR person probably has.
Maybe.
They probably skimmed over it at least, but they don't understand the technical parts. Trust me. They haven't gone and looked at your GitHub. I'll tell you that. The HR person's looked at if you've got something published, they've looked at it. That's about all they've done. They've spent at most like a minute on it. The technical manager may have, but don't assume that they have. Just because you've sent it to them, assume they haven't.
Here's what I think totally happens is like the technical manager is working on the problems of the day. He's working with the dev, maybe answering some questions about a production support. The HR manager sends him a Teams message and says, hey, remember you got that interview at 1 today. And he's like, oh crap, it's 5 to 1. Okay, well, I'll be there. He Googles top 30 C# interview questions and brings those into it. That's what he's going to do. And so he hasn't looked at your portfolio. He hasn't looked at your resume typically. Maybe he's scanned over it. He knows your name. Don't get offended by that. He's busy. Like, don't worry about that. Your job is to get an offer. And so you need to turn that opportunity. The less prep they are, the better. That means they're willing to look at your stuff. like if he doesn't have an agenda walking in, create one for him. Hey, let's look at my portfolio. So I think that works. A lot of people get so upset when they haven't reviewed my stuff before I got there. That's what the interview's for. Yeah, so don't worry about it. They haven't. Just assume they haven't.
Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the. This is not an alley-oop question, I promise, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
Kim says, "Hey guys, has there been any additional content added to the self-paced course recently?" Yes, 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 and yes. We've added the most we've added in a short amount of time ever.
This account's literally called Kevin's Code here.
It's not me. I swear, I'm not like on the side, like putting in my own questions. I promise.
Kevin bot account.
I promise. I promise. This is not me. This is not a plant. It's not a plant. $10 in the mail, Kevin.
Exactly.
But yes, we have. We've added new .NET 6 content. We've added. What else did we just add? We added something else too. We added a
LinkedIn course.
A LinkedIn course. We just added that too.
Yeah.
We're working on another thing too, which it's kind of soft announced because it's on the page, but it's not out there yet. There's going to be another portfolio course coming here soon. So yeah, we're adding stuff all the time. Yeah, we've added a bunch in the last month. Yeah. Even.
And when we say one course, you might think, oh, you just added one course. Well, it's lengthy.
The .NET 6 content is like 20 hours worth of video content in there. It's a chunk. It's a chunk. Yeah, it's .NET 6 MVC, so we build a fully featured address book that we call Contact Pro, which has authentication, authorization, search capability, email capability. Like, it's cool. It's a cool app. It's definitely a portfolio-worthy app, which is why we build it. That's what we want to build here.
That's it.
That's it. While we're talking about that, then we haven't chose to talk about this before, but I think we will. I think we should. There's somebody who says, I can't subscribe to your school as a bootcamp because there's negative connotation out there, and one of these YouTube bootcamp is in a class action lawsuit, namely Clever Programmer. So I guess this means this guy, that everybody who teaches something online is a scammer, which is just not true.
So don't subscribe then if you think that. I mean, but here's what I would say is until you've read the lawsuit to see kind of what it's are, I have no idea. I've seen this on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Clever Programmer could do a good job, could do a bad job. I have no idea like what he's good at. Here's what I can promise you about Coder Foundry, how we're different. I'm just going to, since you asked, I'll give you my best sales pitch. So please hold on for a second. Number one thing we do in our virtual bootcamp is that you are there for 40 hours a week. So it's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the East Coast side. And their instructors with you 40 hours per week. So that anytime that you're in class, that instructor's there to help you, guide you, answer questions, move you forward. In addition to that, we do a lot of one-on-ones through the Zoom chat too to kind of check in how you're doing, what kind of specific questions you have. So that's the difference between us and practically every bootcamp out there. A lot of bootcamps do have video content plus some teacher support. We're all teacher support and all live content on our virtual bootcamp. Now, self-paced is different. It's priced different. It's all video content. It's cheap. So you can subscribe to the self-paced program if you want and just see if we're good teachers or not. And then that can make up your mind as should I come into the virtual bootcamp. But just because Clever Programmer got sued, you're going to eliminate an entire section of education. It's kind of crazy. Some people do bad things. I don't know.
It's unfortunate that there are people out here that are doing this. But I mean, I'll say for us too, we've been around since 2014. We've been here for a minute. We didn't just pop up overnight. We're not YouTube first, bootcamp second. We're bootcamp first, YouTube second. We had our bootcamp way before we had a YouTube channel. YouTube is just a thing
we were one of the first ones out. I mean, on the East Coast, very definitely on the first ones. I mean, we were right there when Hack Reactor started and all the other ones started. We started around the same time.
Just to clarify what Samu was saying, though, he's not saying that I guess he's not saying that we're bad. He's not painting us with that brush. But I will say that some people will, and I get that. So he's just saying that the best school out there. We definitely appreciate that for sure. But I mean, but the opinion of people who say like, this guy's like running this scam. He's had a class action lawsuit, whatever. Again, we don't know the details about it in the lawsuit. Even we were talking about this. Like, I wonder what they're actually suing for. Like, what is it? What is it actually? Is it like, is it really a scam, or is it like, is this just like people's expectations aren't what they actually got? I don't know. I don't know anything about the details because they were really lax on details. And I tried to find a copy of the lawsuit, and I can't find it. So
we couldn't find it. We can't find it.
Couldn't find a copy of it because I wanted to like go into it in a little bit more detail and figure out what it actually was because it is interesting. It's in our wheelhouse. We should know about this.
Yeah. The other thing too, I will say that if you come in and you get into the virtual bootcamp, what you'll realize right away is that we don't let everyone in. So that's another kind of like red flag. If the boot camp lets every single person in, then, you know, can you really learn this in a 12-week fashion? So you've got to take a quiz to get in. Then you've got to turn in we got 2 videos series that you got to watch, turn in those, we call them the JavaScript coding challenges. You have to build a couple things for us. And then there's a personal interview with me, interview every single student that comes in. Because I'm trying to figure out, do you have the grit, determination, and what are your expectations? What are your outcomes? And see if we can get you to where you want to be. Now, that's what I do. And so we restrict the class down to less than 30 usually, less than 30, because we don't interview everybody for a variety of reasons. We don't let everyone in. We're trying to find people that are really smart, that just want to change in life. Now, smart doesn't mean what you've done in the past. You don't have to be an expert coder coming in, but you've got to be able to follow instructions and that kind of stuff. So that's what we look at. So we're very selective in who gets into virtual bootcamp to begin with. Now everyone can take our self-paced course.
It's funny because sometimes our last couple of cohorts have been small, and it's not because we've had a lack of applications for it. We've had over 100 for each. But it's like you start talking to people, you interview people, and you're always just like, nah. It's like, we ended up with a class of, I don't know how many's in the current cohorts, like 15 or something or whatever it is. It's like, it's a small class because once you start weeding it down, it's like, we want people who can actually do this. Like, we want people who can actually get through it.
So we try to be a good player in the space. We try to be a good actor. And painting all boot camps in one broad brush is kind of bad. The thing I would say is, if you look at some of the larger boot camps and their success rate is 65 or 70%, I think that's, if you're running 40,000 students through a year, that's a good track record. A lot of people ding these bigger ones because of that. It's a good track record. Yeah. I mean, because we see people will quit. It's better in college. We see people that quit the Coder Foundry Bootcamp. And so should I get dinged for that? I mean, like, I don't know, you quit. So like, how can I teach you if you're not here? So like, those are a lot of things go into these metrics. And we just try to tell people that, you know, if you can build the projects that we build in the cohort, you can demo them and you can talk about them, you're going to get a job as a developer. Does that mean everyone will do that? No, everyone won't be able to do that. But the ones that do will. And so that's what we're trying to find, people that are willing to put in the effort, the time, and the commitment and the grit to go through that process of doing it. And then we'll be there every step of the way. So that's what my thoughts on Clever Programmer. So we'll go over a little bit, Kevin, since I digressed on that. See,
that's fine. We'll do just a couple more. Let's see. What about this? Heroku removing its free tier account. This is something you've been looking at. You were literally working on this yesterday. Yeah. You were talking about this yesterday.
I'm looking at that. We're looking at other solutions out there. I don't think there's any truly free ones out there anyway. So we're going to look at Railway as an option, getting .NET to work up there. Got to go through those issues to get it to work for us. Heroku is still inexpensive.
Yeah, it is still an option. It's just not free. Yeah.
So like this, and it's not bad. I mean, it's just not free anymore. So depending on if you're pushing out .NET program applications with Postgres like we are, we're going to look around. Now, the other ones we are going to look at are traditional Azure and AWS, and can we make them free for 12 months? That's the claim, but we need to actually push our code there and see if we're going to get charged or not. You know, like is it truly,
and also
truly
see
free?
how complex it is too. That's the great thing about
how
Heroku,
complex
right?
it is.
Heroku's continuous deployment is just like, it's so easy. Yeah. It's so easy.
Yeah, Railway's not as simple. Like you've got
to use containers, right?
Yeah, and you got to build it, you know, that kind of stuff. Because obviously, what I'm running into is their default container doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So like, we're trying to figure that out. Not a lot of support with Railway, so we're going to look at some other options or some other companies.
I would imagine they're inundated too. Like a lot of people.
Oh yeah, everyone in there saying, "Hey,
everybody's saying,
I want to come here because Heroku." So.
Bottom
line, Kevin, and everyone else listening is, I think we're going to have to pay for hosting. Now, how much should we pay? $1,000 a month? No, I think you can pay under $20 a month to get this hosted. So,
because we were talking about like, what is that like? Exactly, like when if you're going for if you're trying to get a job and you need to host your portfolio of projects, that's generally what we're talking about here. How long you have to host them for and how much. So let's say that it is $20 a month and it takes you 3 months of hosting. That's $60.
$60.
It's not a massive amount of investment, you know. Plus whatever you know, obviously you've probably spent money to learn as well. I get that, but it's like we're not talking about even hundreds of dollars potentially.
No, I don't think so.
You know, so we just want to give everybody options. We can find a free
Heroku
one.
Heroku will probably be in that range of how much it actually costs.
I think so.
I'm actually running stuff on Heroku now for a month to see kind of like what my bill is, so I can better understand like, okay, it's going to cost about this.
Yeah. And we want to give people options. That's what we were talking about. We're not going to like push people towards one thing. We're going to say like, hey, you can use this, this, and this. And we're going to show you how to do this, and this, and then you can choose.
Yeah.
If you want if we can find a decent one that's free, but maybe there's some issues, we'll do that. If we can find one that's at a certain price point, the next price point, and then you can choose.
Yeah. So it should be good. Let's ask you some more questions here, Kevin. I'll stay a little longer. So.
That's kind of our plan. Did we get to 100K subscribers yet? No, we are at... Oh, my thing just disappeared. It was at 89 something. So no,
yeah, you can subscribe, Zulu.
You can, yeah, if you're not already subscribed. Because when we
Call your mom, see if she'll subscribe with us. You know. Because
when we do, we are going to do the giveaway. So if you haven't already entered that giveaway, go up here and enter. Links in the description as well. Right you can go up here and do a little giveaway. I promise this is safe. So yeah, we're giving away MacBook, or a Windows machine, and a headset and some other stuff in there. Year's subscription to the course. So yeah, go enter if you haven't already. So when we hit 100K, we will give that away. Also, we've got some new ads that are coming out on YouTube too for the bootcamp. Sidetrack here, but if anybody sees one, message me.
Let us know what you think
and tell me what you thought of it. Just message me on DM me on Discord. I'm Doyle on there because I'm interested to see if you see one, kind of what video you see it on, and what you think of it. It's a slightly different take for us. So yeah, let us know. We've got one out there right now. There's gonna be a few more coming out. So yeah, we're gonna be running a few ads for the course coming out. So which we haven't really done before. Cool. Well, my delivery.
One question for the road, Kevin.
I'm expecting a delivery, and it's still not here yet. By the way, I thought it was going to come while we were on the thing here. So
we'll just do one question for the road here.
Let's see, what do we got? Okay, let's do this one. I'm making a portfolio now. First UI was in WebAssembly, but since a web dev needs JavaScript 2, I started learning React. Should I just learn MVC and vanilla JS, or use WebAssembly, or stay with React? I want to get a job ASAP. And then the follow-up was this. Additionally, there are no Blazor WebAssembly jobs that don't include senior in the posting. You kind of answering your own question here, I think. So what do you think?
So I think right now Blazor is growing, but it's not dominant in the marketplace. So like web development currently right now is still sitting in around MVC type technologies and single page technologies, which is like React or Angular. So, but I would leave that WASM on there, man, and I would apply for Blazor jobs. I would, especially if it has a database backend on it.
Yeah, even the fact that it just says senior, because it is so new, they may be willing to kind of like look past that. Yeah, because it's a new technology. So yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't definitely not try that. But Blazor is cool. Definitely cool. But if you have something with a back end on it and you build out a web VI and a database WASM project, that's kind of cool. If it's just a front end project, that's not as cool. So people that are picking WASM are picking it for the enterprise reasons that we want to build out. They want to build applications that does something. So maybe a Blazor blog would be really great, something like that.
There you go. Cool.
All right,
that's it. Helps. That's it. I think my delivery is just about to show up. This is awesome timing. It means I can go take care of it.
Okay. Cool. All right, guys, keep coding. I will see you next week. See you.
Actually, I don't think we will be back next week. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm on a trip next week.
Okay.
So it'll be the week after.
On vacation,
next.
So this thing just stops.
Stops. Maybe we'll do it the day before or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll fit it in at some other point. Maybe. So.
We'll fit it out. All right. See you guys.
See you guys later.
Keep coding.